Scrolling through your streaming queue, but there is no movie for you. It's out of print. Out of print. Out of print. Hello everyone, I'm Curt Wiser, the writer-director of the movie Cam Girl and the audio series A Voice in Violet. This is Out of Print, where we review out-of-print movies or those rare gems that are really hard to find on streaming. Most of these are only available on Blu-ray and DVD. I have an elaborate collection, and I absolutely love to collect movies that aren't available any other way. A lot of them are quite amazing. You'd be amazed how many incredible movies aren't available on streaming because of various rights issues. Could be anything. Could be over music. Could be over just the rights fall out of the original right holders and revert back, and then nobody does anything with the film to re-release them. Today we're going to be talking about probably one of the most infamous movies that is not available on streaming for many years now, which is Kevin Smith's fourth film, Dogma. It's quite an interesting story behind that. A Joe Blow doc on YouTube covers this in detail. Here's a clip.
When the film was finished, rumblings began to happen that the Catholic League was unhappy about the subject matter of the film. There were protests planned and a boycott of Disney, who was Miramax's parent company at the time. This made the corporation uneasy, and they weren't sure what to do about the film. They began to discuss not releasing it. Harvey Weinstein then bought the distribution rights personally and set up a release through Lionsgate. Even after this strategy, there was still an uproar about the film. Smith didn't understand why people were protesting since no one had even seen the film. No one could even know what was in it. It was later discovered that an early draft of the script had been leaked online. Everything the groups were protesting wasn't even in the finished film. The film was finally released on November 12, 1999.
Kevin Smith famously even appeared at one of the protests of the screenings and blended in and was interviewed on camera as just a protester. he just for fun showed up protesting his own movie, and you can find a clip of that. It's hilarious. He said he was somebody else. Like, are you Kevin Smith?
They went ahead and interviewed Smith and asked him what he thought of the film.
I don't think it stands for anything positive.
What does it stand for?
I don't know, but I've been told not good.
But he would say that he had enjoyed the director's first film. Dogma would continue the Kevin Smith trend of bringing in hardcore fans but missing with some mainstream audiences. It would go on to be a cult classic, of course, and one of the highest grossing of the View Askew films from Smith's filmography. Critics would praise the film, and Smith would get a lot of acclaim for it. As the years have gone by, lots of Smith fans have noticed the film is hard to find. The physical release of the film has gone out of print, and it's not available on any streaming services. The big reason for this is because the film is owned by Harvey Weinstein. When he bought the rights personally for the initial release, he had the home video rights included. Smith has said he wishes it was more widely available, but there just isn't much he can do about it.
Many years later, the Me Too accusations happened, and the trial and all that, and he was a pariah, of course, and he held on. Harvey and his brother held on to those rights. In fact, recently Kevin Smith talked about on the Woody Show how he even offered up to $1 million to get the rights of Dogma, and they still refused to give it to him. But then it actually eventually sold to a venture capital group, and sadly, they got like probably less for that movie than he was offering, the $1 million. But they sold it to Kevin Smith, and now he's able to release it. It's got a beautiful 4K release in theaters. It was just released theatrically in September in multiple theaters, so I just finished that. And now it's going to get, soon it's going to get a home video release on a 4K Steelbook. Here is Kevin Smith on The Woody Show talking about the rights issues and how it finally came back into his hands.
Dogma, great movie, and you'd be able to watch it back at that time. And then there was this great dark period where you couldn't get it, and it's because Harvey Weinstein, yes, the Harvey Weinstein, he had the rights to it.
Yeah, technically what happened was, in order for the movie to come out, Disney hated it. Disney owned Miramax at that time.
Uh-huh.
So Disney was like, you guys got to get rid of this movie. And this had happened before at Miramax with a couple films. For example, there was a movie called Kids.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my
Saw it in
God.
the theater.
Yeah.
And so
Even as a horny young man, like
That's
I was
right.
like, you know what? I could probably.
Okay, the Kids I also own on DVD, and wow, it's a very, very edgy movie, which also features Rosario Dawson, a rather young, one of her first roles, if not her first role, in Kids. And it's a phenomenal movie, but just very, very edgy, dealing with youth and things that if you have a teenage son or daughter, you hope that kids never do, but it shows all kids doing things that you hope that if they're a son or daughter that they wouldn't be doing. But I'm not surprised at all. It's another one that is a similar, fell into a similar predicament that Dogma had with a parent company. Let's continue with the interview.
You know what? I could probably go the rest of my
grossed
life without
out by
having
that.
sex.
Yeah.
Miramax made that movie. Miramax was owned by Disney. Disney was like, you got to get rid of this movie. It's not a Disney type film. And so the Weinstein brothers personally bought the movie and then released it themselves. And they made a bunch of money with it. So when the Dogma controversy happened and then Disney, like Michael Eisner was leaning on Harvey going, you have to get rid of this movie. You never should have made it in the first place, and now you have to get rid of it. So Harvey and Bob had a model already from what they did with Kids where they bought Dogma personally, although I never saw a receipt. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
there was no proof
Bought
that they
Dogma.
actually money changed hands.
Right.
They ever paid Disney back, which is a point of contention. But in any event, once they had it, then they licensed it out first to Lionsgate for theatrical release. And this is baby Lionsgate. This is like, I remember when we hit 30 million, Lionsgate took out a double-page ad going, 30 million! This is the company that would go on to make,
Hunger Games?
the Hunger Games franchises
Yeah.
and whatnot. So there was a time they were a very small company. So Lionsgate had it for theatrical. Sony or Columbia TriStar had it for home video. When you do these things, they have deals, and those deals eventually lapse. They probably did a 10-year deal or something like that. 10 years into those deals, well, Lionsgate's theatrical distribution is done after the movie comes out in 99. The home video version that Columbia TriStar had, their license expired while Harvey was not in jail. While
Right.
he was still up making
He was
the artist.
He was still out there doing the crimes that got him in the court
That
later
got
on,
him the
yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Yes, behind while still having a thriving career.
Yeah.
And it's the thriving career we need to focus on because of that, he could care less about Dogma. It was a property he owned, but he would never
Right.
re-up the license. And we would put in calls going like, Sony wants to re-up Dogma, but he didn't care. We never got word back or anything like that.
So he gets in trouble. He's tied
years
up
later,
in all this stuff.
years later, I'll tell a story here. Years later, I lived it. If you want to explain it, you can, Wood, but I'll tell you. So years later, Harvey calls up. I haven't spoken to this dude since we left in 2008 after we made Zack and Miri. And he calls up out of the blue, and they're like, hold for Harvey Weinstein. I was like, oh my God. And he goes, Kevin. I said, hey, how are you? He goes, I'm good. Dogma. I just realized we got it, and we're not doing anything with it. This could be a sequel or streaming series now. Mind you, I haven't heard from this person in 12 years, and I was so excited. I was like, oh my God, he remembered that he owned this movie, my fourth film with this cast. Like, it's valuable, and he sees there's value in it. Maybe we'll get to go back to the Dogma table and stuff. So he goes, all right, we'll talk about this further. I'll get into it next week. Bye. And he hangs up. So excited. 6 days later, the New York Times article
Oh,
drops.
my God.
Yeah. No.
So at that point, I go from excited to scared because like this guy I just spoke to this dude for the first time in 12 years. So I speak to John Gordon, who's my producer friend. He worked at Miramax back in the day, produced Red State and stuff. So I said, I was like, hey man, it was after that article dropped. I don't know what it was like for other people, but for me and the people I knew in that business, it was like, did you know? Did you know? Like, how did this happen? So John, I knew for years, and he worked there. He left eventually to go to Universal. But I was like, did you know? He goes, I had no idea. I said, I don't know how to say this, dude, but like, he called me last week for the first time in 12 years, and he talked about doing Dogma again. And John goes, he was just trying to see if you were one of the New York Times sources.
Oh.
hold the phone.
and I was
Hold the phone on that one. Can you imagine? Oh, you can actually hear the heartbreak and in his eyes as Kevin Smith's saying that, recounting that story. So, like you said, after 12 years of not speaking, then you get this call out of the blue, knowing something, a passion project of his. Dogma was intentionally a passion project of his. At the time, he was very Irish Catholic, very steeped in his faith. Kevin Smith was. It was a very personal film to him. At the time, it was his highest budget film.
Got very little money.
Very little money. This movie, we should point out,
job, by the
was
way,
shot
for
for
the money.
$10 million.
Yeah. Well, shot.
$10 million.
$10 million, ladies and gentlemen. That's why when it went on to do 30, it was considered a success.
That's why they took out the ad.
That's why they took out an ad, because it was a movie that did 3 times its budget.
Well, that is the magic figure for turning a profit.
Yeah, and then to have that manipulation creeping its way, and obviously it's something Harvey had to have known was an important thing to Kevin, since he, was asking about it over the years. And then to have it find out that that's why you got that phone call. That's heartbreaking, man. Hearing that, it is. Anyway, let's continue about the rights issue. Like I said, this is very, like, the story of itself, is full of drama. Just the behind the scenes of this rights, how it came in and out of.
I'm not saying and I was heartbroken and Harvey Weinstein hurt me.
Right.
The least
Get
egregious
mine.
thing the monster ever did, right?
Sure.
But that being said, it wasn't sincere. It was him going is he one of the people?
Right.
And once he had
Going
me on the
down the
phone
list.
and he talked for a minute, he
Wow.
was like, he's not one of them, and moved on. So
Wow.
that was the last Dogma anything for a minute. Harvey, as we all know, went through some issues
Yep.
and is in jail. A year and a half ago, we started reaching out, going I wrote a very heartfelt letter about how this is my 4th movie, and I know you made lots of them, but this is tied in with my father who's dead, and it's all about my Catholicism. It's sitting on a shelf someplace. Can we please have it? Its 25th anniversary is coming up. I offered $250K. The lawyer got back to us, said absolutely not. So I wrote another letter and then offered $500K. Lawyer came back, said absolutely not. That's about as high as I can go without reaching out to others who may be perhaps I reached out to Ben and Matt. So I was able to go back and be like, how about $1 million? Still told us no.
Oh.
So that was it. 6 months, 8 months go by, forget about it because it's all done and stuff. Then we get a call from these people who are like, we just bought 10 movies and we were going through them and we see one has Ben Affleck in it. What do you know about this?
Yeah.
It was a company that bought movies. Studio didn't buy these movies. What happened was I guess this guy, of course, is ever fighting his legal battle, so he had more bills. And he liquidated a bunch of things that he personally owned. So the way I heard the story is this. This company, it's not even a company, it's an investment. What do they call those things?
Venture capitalist.
Venture
type thing?
capitalist
Yeah.
thing. So they bought a tranche, they called it, of movies that Harvey personally owned. One was Kids, Larry Clark's movie. One was Fahrenheit 9/11, Michael Moore's documentary.
Right.
They did the same thing with that years later. 6 of them were kung fu movies because he had been working on kung fu stuff with Quentin. So he started buying, I guess, Shaw Brothers stuff maybe. And then one was Dogma. And this whole tranche of films got sold as a big set for we were within spitting distance.
Oh boy.
Oh, wow.
For the one movie.
Yes.
Yeah, wow.
And
And they
still,
bought all of them.
The guy who makes the decision was
Yeah.
like, no.
Wow.
Wow.
What an a-hole.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was kind of felt like a real from hell's heart I stab at thee kind of moment, but whatever. So this company is like, we own this now, but we don't know what to do with it. Do you want to play with it? I was like, this
Of
is all
course
my
I
dream.
do. Yeah.
I've been
So
waiting.
first thing we did was our due diligence to make sure that that dude is completely separated. Because over the years, people have been like, hey, I can get your Dogma back. I'll be like, great, man, let's do it and stuff.
Yeah.
And they're like, but a piece of it goes back to him. And I was like, I can't. And never in a million years, I'd rather never touch that movie again.
So he's got his own problems. I doubt he even
And
cares about
God.
this. Yeah, right. At this
Yeah.
point.
So now it's like, oh my God, I get to play with it again. And it has been wild, man, because you got to remember, this happened in 1999. 26 years ago, there was a Dogma poster. There was a Dogma trailer.
Yeah.
The Dogma marketing story had been written. And like now, 26 years later, they're like, here's your new poster. I was like, oh my God, like this is phenomenal. Like, here's the new trailer. And the trailer, like, I know that movie. The trailer made me want to see the movie where I'm like, this movie looks dope.
Well, you can watch the full interview on The Woody Show with Kevin Smith, and he goes into detail about the re-release and the rights. Another thing that he touched upon was how at the time there was death threats that was sent to him because it was before it was released, because it was just such deemed as being so controversial. But even on rewatching the movie recently, it's not at the time, even it wasn't controversial. They just thought it was very anti-religious, but really I think it's a very irresponsible. If anything, it just questions Dogma questions organized religion. It doesn't really question faith. It's very much a celebration of faith, and has the existence of God. It portrays God. It talks at length about God. So it's very steeped in faith. It's just not necessarily exactly in keeping with organized religion, maybe. But again, proof is after it was released, Kevin Smith even said then all the kind of threats and protests and everything quieted down. But actually, one of the upsides of that whole controversy over the release of Dogma was it made Kevin Smith painfully aware of the Westboro Baptist Church. And that led to my favorite film of Kevin Smith's, which is Red State. It's loosely based on a group similar to that. My favorite Kevin Smith films, top 3, would ranked in order would be Red State, Chasing Amy, and Dogma. But here is Kevin Smith on The Woody Show talking about those kind of threats that he got on the initial release back in 1999.
Re-premiere, new premiere this Sunday, Easter Sunday for Dogma.
Great.
Of all the things and all the complaints and all the controversy that happened when it first came out, was there anything that was scary?
Yeah.
Was there like a scary threat?
There
One that you were really concerned about?
We got, 400,000 pieces of hate mail, and 3 were verified death threats. And one of them, I still remember the one that said, and this is me quoting a letter. So, how do I put this? You.
We can bleep. Do we need to bleep it out?
No.
Board, are we ready? Can we bleep it out if we need
just
to?
Be standing by. But it was directed at a group of people.
Okay.
So I'm not gonna do it as he did it, or I assume it was him. But so it said you, and in parentheticals, people of the Jewish persuasion.
Okay.
But
We've
something
heard it all.
a little more.
Yeah. Gina knows all of them. Yeah.
You better take that money you stole from us and start investing in flak jackets, because we're coming in there with shotguns.
Huh.
Your brothers in Christ. And
we've had it too good for too long.
Wow. Oh my God. It was terrifying, man. So there was that thing.
Okay.
We couldn't open our mail in the office for like 4 months and stuff. When we went to Cannes, they installed for our screening they installed at the Palais metal detectors.
Sure. Oh, wow.
Because there were threats of violence and stuff. But the weirdest one, and I still remember this and tell this often. We got to the New York Film Festival premiere of the movie. So it's the Alice Tully Hall. New York Film Festival is a huge event back east every year and stuff. We brought our kid. Harley was just born. She was an infant, and we put these little angel wings on her. So she dressed like a little angel, still chubby cheeked and stuff, like just this, like barely 2 months old. So we come out of the car, and there's 1,000 people lined up all around the theater holding statues of Mary, praying the rosary at us, weaponizing prayer like at us and stuff. Peaceful, nobody like pushing or shoving, but there were a lot of bodies, a lot of people not happy that we were there. So we go inside, and my plan is, I tell the publicist, Gina Gardini, I was like, I'm going to go intro, but I'm going to bring the kid out because she got the wings on. It's going to be adorable. And Gina's looking at me all weird, and I was like, what? And she goes, I just need to remind you that anybody could buy a ticket for the screening. Oh, and I was like, I know, that's why it's sold out. It's awesome. She goes, no, anybody can buy a ticket for the screening,
even
including
the pissed off
that
people
don't want this to happen. And I was like, oh, yeah, I guess you're right. I was like, so what's your point? She's like, you're about to step on stage holding your baby.
Yeah,
And I
maybe
was
not
like,
a good
are
idea.
you saying
Yeah.
don't do that? She's going, Kevin, I would feel remiss to not at least mention it, considering the climate around this movie. And I was like, I mean, you know, I was scared, but I was like, if I could go out there without the kid, that's like letting the terrorists win. So I went out with the kid, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't using her like a human shield the whole time.
You got to.
That's what kids are for.
Hey, everybody, here's the kid in the balcony.
That's what kids are for.
Yeah. All right, so that's that. So yeah, on to the review. So I reviewed from my collection the 2-disc special edition DVD of Dogma. It has 2 commentaries, 2 great commentaries, very entertaining, with a cast and crew. One was more fun and had more people. The other one was more of a technical one with the cast and crew to kind of be more serious, to talk about the technical aspects of the filmmaking process. You can even find hidden Easter eggs in the DVD menu if you move around the options for a bit. This is what physical media is all about. 2 discs full of features. It also has like outtakes and deleted scenes. It has over 100 minutes of deleted scenes. So this is what it's all about, you know. It really gives great insight to the movie, and it gives it a second life. It really tells you so much more about the backstory of the movie and the filmmaking process. The movie itself is fantastic. It really holds up. The dialogue is just really well written. It deals so much. I mean, it's surprisingly good how he was able to make such an interesting story revolving around faith and Catholicism. And, you know, it's not just, it's sophisticated in that it's in its dialogue, and that it does question organized religion, but in a respectful way. It never felt, I mean, to me, there is a poop monster in it, you know, and things like that. But it seemed very respectful of the Bible and religious beliefs, and was able to create such a compelling story and characters around that. It had such interesting symbolism. Like, for instance, there's a scene that really got my attention between Loki, you know, Ben Affleck and Matt Damon's characters, the 2 fallen angels who have to find a loophole to, you know, to be able to get back to heaven, but that would also erase humanity because you know, God's infallible and they shouldn't be a loophole like that. But in the scene, a very dramatic scene between the 2 fallen angels, you see that there's a circular light up above Matt Damon's head, like a halo that you usually see in iconography of angels, especially portrayed even like in classical paintings. I can't help but think this is intentional. It has to be intentional to me, because when the camera moves, it even moves back into that position with the halo above Matt's head. And, you know, actors have their marks and everything. In most scenes, it's like they know roughly where they want to be, sometimes exactly where they want them to be. And I think that's a masterful symbolism. There's also when Bethany dives into the water, and, you know, that's symbolism of cleansing of one's sins. And then, of course, the walking on the water with Alan Rickman's character. And Alan Rickman was fantastic, I thought, as that character. Very deadpan, but funny, and with charisma, and just a perfect balance of all the cast, really, I felt. You know, because Jay is so animated compared to some of these others. I did also, and then Bethany at the end has a stigmata injury. Spoilers, there's like a stigmata injury, and that has to be intentional. That's kind of how that injury was portrayed, I think, you know. And then God's able to save the day with magic powers, wax on, wax off. The Kevin Smith loves his movie references, so that's of course the Karate Kid. Also, of course, the golden calf, the movie golden calf, which is straight from the Bible. It was false idol. It was a golden calf. Of course, Mubi, the fast food franchise, would many years later, become featured heavily in Clerks 2. It was almost entirely set at a Mubi's restaurant. Briefly, they do go to a Mubi's restaurant in the movie Dogma. There's from the commentary you can learn many interesting things about the production. For instance, Kevin Smith was rather vocal about not having a good time working with the lead, Linda Fiorentino. He said she was difficult. Here's some examples of that from the cast and crew commentary talking about that.
This is our first look at Linda Fiorentino.
Lovely and warm. Linda
Surely not our
Fiorentino.
last, and boy, there are lots of stories that I can and will tell as we move along in the production. Not the easiest person in the world to work with. I stand alone on those comments. I'm the only one who politically will make that move.
Quiet.
You hear those
Deathly
echoes?
quiet.
This was a tough scene to direct because Linda wasn't talking to me this day.
Oh. Yeah, why don't you go into
Why
that?
wasn't
You
she
said you were
talking
going
to
to talk about...
I forget why she wasn't talking to me. She was very unhappy on the picture because people, while we were making the movie, people kept flying away and doing other things. Because you worked on the picture, you knew you didn't make much money, and everyone else pretty much the same way. So people had to pick up change in other places. Some of us were going off to do Shakespeare in Love. Other people were trotting off to do
Lethal Weapon 4.
Lethal Weapon 4.
Accept Oscars.
Accept Oscars. I mean, people were in and out sometimes, particularly because not everyone's in every scene. Linda's in every scene.
Which is actually not that uncommon.
Not
for movies,
uncommon
that
at
people,
all.
You know, you have to work, especially with a huge cast like this, and you know, people come and go because they're in it or not in it. Linda's the lead, so obviously she's there the whole time.
She's there the whole time, but
she
she resented being there, I think, and while other people were going away. But she had to be there.
Kevin Smith actually would have liked Janine Garofalo to play the lead if he could. He was talking about that if he had his way. You know, when he was having second thoughts about when he was working with Linda Fiorentino. Janine Garofalo has a smaller part. He's a friend at the abortion clinic that Linda's character works at. And Janine Garofalo was fantastic in that scene, I have to admit. I could actually see another version of this movie where Janine Garofalo is the lead, and it would be interesting, different. Who's to say which version is better? That other version doesn't exist, so we can just leave it to our imaginations. But that would be an interesting casting choice. Another interesting point was when he talked about how Jason Mewes was falling asleep, and you can actually see it in some of the shots. He was falling asleep in a big exposition dump scene at the end, towards the end of the movie, where Jason Lee's character explains, you know, his plot. You know, it kind of they call it the James Bond exposition scene. But hey, so you know, I mean, filmmaking's hard work. Maybe it was an early morning. I mean, filmmaking can be hard, but he's able to. Actors can do that. Actors are allowed, I guess, to doze off during the scenes. I don't think a filmmaker, you know, camera operator would be able to do that. That'd be a problem. But you can see in some of the shots where Jason Mewes, God bless him, is nodding off. And they were able, they couldn't really edit around it, he says in the commentary. I mean, you gotta listen to the commentary just for wonderful things like hearing Ben Affleck do an impersonation of Denzel Washington. So here's that.
Do your Denzel Washington now.
Listen, we're trying to stick with the movie. It's not
like when you do your
I don't want to
impressions.
steal the show with my impersonations.
You are the modern day Rich Little, and I just think your mimicry is on point. Just brilliant.
Doesn't matter if we're in this. Doesn't matter if I'm in this case or not. Doesn't matter if I'm in this army or not. I'm gonna find out the truth. I guarantee you that.
Available for parties, weddings, the occasional bar mitzvah.
All right, then another moments. I mean, just playful kind of joking with each other. You know, Ben Affleck especially and Kevin Smith kind of like have friendly jabs at one another about their career and so forth or personal lives. I think it's pretty interesting. It's great. It's like a reveal behind the curtain of how they are as people and really friends. You know, Kevin Smith especially is a kind of filmmaker that clearly makes movies with his friends and keeps working with the same kind of people that he likes to work with. Overall, Dogma is fantastic. I highly recommend you see it when it comes out. It should hopefully come out in 2025 on a steelbook. They haven't given a release date for it. It's a 4K release. But they did release it in theaters. It's definitely going to happen as a home video release, but it might be 2026. They didn't give an actual release date yet. You can go to dogmamovie.com. They got a great website there that has, you know, all the information about the re-release. You can also see the new trailer on that website or on YouTube, other places. And be sure to check out in the description below. I'll have links to the videos that I sourced for this. That's it for now. Keep watching movies.
So, for their insolence, God decreed that neither Loki nor Bartleby would ever be allowed back into paradise.
Were they sent to hell?
Worse, Wisconsin, for the entire span of human history.